want to. You don't gotta do it if you don't want to. You don't gotta do it if you don't want to. It's just a suggestion. Come on.
All right. Well, welcome back.
We're back.
We did another one.
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
All right. We'll just keep going after this.
So, welcome back to you as well. I'm Letter K. With me, as always, is Psych. We're continuing the conversation about midlife crisis right now. We talked a little bit last time about some of the psychology behind that, some of the belief structures, and we got a few things under our belt. Did some research, and now we're back with more of the same. Hopefully, we're going to offer some insights into some solutions. If we ever even decide that a midlife crisis is real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I was trying to figure out where this term came from when we met last time. And I came across the name, but I wasn't sure. And I had to keep digging a little bit to kind of sort out, was this the person that actually came up with this term? Was it them really? Do they deserve the credit? And I came across the name Elliot Jacques.
No, there's no S.
Jacques.
Oh, there's an S. Jacques.
Elliot Jacques.
Jacques.
Jacques. So, anyway, 1965, he wrote a paper, and that's where he first was credited with using this term, midlife crisis. From there, it kind of just took off. This change that happens as people age for whatever reason was first explored by him in 1965 in this paper. And now it's kind of snowballed into this thing that we have now, where we're aging and we know it, and we're reaching the ends of our lives. We're farther away from the beginning. We have aspirations and dreams maybe that have been realized and maybe some that haven't been realized yet, and people start to make some changes and go in different directions.
So I did a lot more reading. I got into WebMD, and I found an article written by Kathleen Doney, and she separated midlife crisis for men and women, in the traditional sense.
I think it should be.
Yeah, and she would agree with you. So she said that for men, it's usually the gauge of their worth and their job performance and their level of success or their achievements. And if they don't measure up to what they had hoped, crisis ensues. For women, it's more often the validity they get through their relationships. So it's things like evaluating their performance as a wife or a mother, or how those are going. So maybe the kids they're leaving, or they don't perceive their relationship with their husband going how they had thought it would. Crisis ensues.
Well, I think anytime one reaches a point in life where things aren't going according to plan or don't go exactly as you want them to, yeah, absolutely, that could definitely be the case.
So you get the pressure with the kids in like middle school now, and the grades are slipping, and
yes.
And so is there early life crisis?
Possibly. Maybe we could coin that term and write a paper about it, and somebody will read about us in, I don't know, 70 years.
Yeah. I wonder if there's like a scientist thesaurus. We can get into it.
Yeah, worth a look. Anyway, as you know, the interwebs are full of everything.
And you just discovered TikTok.
And yes, I just learned about this thing out there. I don't know if all of you have heard about it. It's called TikTok. There's a thing called TikTok, and it's not a clock.
It's run by the Chinese.
Yeah, here it is. And so I looked up a couple of videos, and we're just gonna take a peek at people exploring this topic in brief and just kind of react to it. So Here we go.
Midlife crisis to me, I said this before, is someone I believe that has got to a stage of their life where they're now perhaps in resentment, like you said. They're looking back thinking, bloody hell, I should have done that. Looking at their partner, husband or wife, and thinking, bloody hell, you held me back. I should have gone and done that job. Or I should have started that business because I could have been here and my friends are there. I think it's reflection, thinking you didn't do what you wanted to do, or at least give it a go.
He would seem to agree with Kathleen Doney here. Yeah, the whole idea of evaluating your life, and you can always. I mean, we're always evaluating our own performances. We're the whole concept of us being our own worst critic. But if you have, there's this point that you reach where you're like, well, shoot, I got to get my act together because I've got more behind me than I have in front of me. I can see how that might give people cause for alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked what he said about the reflection, getting to a point where you have the time or the wherewithal or the experience to pull from to further evaluate, what have I done? What haven't I done? What's been good in my life? What have I not yet explored that I wish to? What do I want to avoid? Can I continue to avoid those things? Can I continue to get the things that I have been receiving? And can I continue to accomplish the things that I've been accomplishing and achieve the things that I've been achieving? But more so, I think it's that part about missing out. When there was that thing out there, I didn't get it. I didn't get a chance. I didn't get an opportunity. I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the education, I didn't have the money, didn't have the resource, whatever it may be, whatever they were lacking at that time that didn't lend themselves the opportunity to go after something that they wanted is huge. But that starts with even just taking a few moments to reflect on the path that you've already walked.
So do we think that the concept of a midlife crisis or any kind of concern over how we're doing in life is caused by trying to create the perfect existence for ourselves? Because you just said, think this or that may not be going according to plan, but other things probably are.
Certainly.
So, but we create this like checklist or this bubble or this world in our mind. How we see ourselves in the whole, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20, 30, 40, whatever. So is the problem that we are not as accepting as we could be of the things that haven't gone picture perfect? And is it the pursuit of that perfect life that causes the problem that we face mentally?
I think it's probably a little of both. It's probably a little of both. I think definitely in the Western world, we are presented with everybody else's world premieres, right?
Yeah.
You see anybody's page anywhere in social media, online, the vast majority of those status updates, photos, videos, those are their shining moments. Those are their highlights. Those are anything that you would see maybe at the end of their life getting shown off. Like when you reach the end of your life, when people come to pay their respects and to honor you, what the things that they would, maybe think of and bring up the things, your biggest and greatest accomplishments, aside from the day-to-day stuff. But yeah, rarely do you see people present themselves at their worst or their failures, which it's not truly authentic. It's not the whole picture by any means. It's not taking a holistic look at a human being and their existence. But that is mostly, in my opinion, more of a Western world issue, more of a Western world problem.
So I agree that social media is never a full picture, although I do disagree that everybody presents their cherry-picked best moments. I mean, I spend more time on Facebook than you do.
Yes, you do.
And So I do see the people who are like, here's me living my best life. I'm out hiking again, or here's my kids that going to school, whatever. But I also see, and I know a number of people on Facebook who only use it as a driver for fishing for like sympathies, or and I might even call some of them like calls for help. I see a lot of people post depressing things on Facebook. I know a guy who went through a divorce, and he spent the next year posting all this anti women single mother stuff on Facebook. Total cry for help stuff. Or I know I have a girl on Facebook, it's a friend of mine who just spends all of her time posting "woe is me, I'll never find love or happiness, and I'm no one to be wanted" kind of stuff. And so those kinds of things, they elicit a response from people. People are like, "Oh no, you're great," woo, woo, woo. So I think that a lot of people do put their best face forward on Facebook, but a lot of people use it as a form of free counseling.
Okay, I guess we could probably be a little bit more accurate in saying people are going to post, or will post, and have posted, and put their lives out there. Whatever's going to gain them the most attention.
Yeah,
whatever
that is 100% accurate.
Whatever they're going to get the most traction, whatever is going to get them the most views, or likes, or comments, or the most engagement. I think that's what people go to. So if your life is glass half empty, and you don't have anything good to say, well then what do you have? So if those are the only tools in your toolbox, then you'll use those if you're going to get.
No, I think that's the way that it should be presented. Social media is a way for you to gain attention, whether it's good or bad, in the largest quantity that you can achieve.
And so the people in their midlife crisis, if their status is midlife crisis, however you define that, and whatever we think actually goes into that or not, they're out there too.
Yeah.
They're getting advice from people also going through their own midlife crisis, who are just as lost as they are.
People love to give advice on the internet.
It's the blind leading the blind.
I think that the faux anonymity has a lot to do with that. Yeah.
I'll have another video to take a quick peek at. We can see if this resonates with us at all.
I would say that the midlife crisis is related to one thing prior to everything, and it's purpose. A lot of the guys, they went through their 20s trying to figure out what they wanted. In their 30s, they're on the path. But then they get to their 40s. A lot of guys already have kids, but they're sacrificed almost their whole 20s and their 30s to take care of their family. And as a good man, that to me is totally normal. That's your job. But then they get to their 30-ish, their 40, they're like, okay, what now? I've been grinding for so long. I probably have money in the bank. I have a nice house. My wife's taken care of. My kids are good. What the fuck do I really do?
So
interesting.
So yeah, if I did not think when I was 30, 31, 32 that I've been grinding forever. Calm down. So, but he makes a good point about purpose. One of the articles that I was reading is on helpguide.org, which is like a mental health and wellness website. It's kind of interesting. They have a whole section on aging well. It's one of their tabs.
Okay.
And I was reading an article today about midlife crisis. It has a bunch of symptomatic stuff. It has a bunch of things about basically what we've been talking about a lot, and it hits a lot of the points that we've been discussing. And it has ways to circumvent the bigger issues surrounding midlife crisis. And the first one is accept change, which I just mentioned. But the second one is maintain a sense of purpose. Whatever it is, you have to have the drive to continue moving forward. I mean, you can have the drive to just continue to exist, sure. But having purpose, I think what that guy was getting at is needing or finding something else to achieve. Because if you're in your 30s and you own a house and you've got a good job and you've got a wife that loves you, or at least you think she does, and then what? And that's kind of how he ended his thing. The midlife crisis might trigger by thinking, oh, well, I've kind of arrived. I've done everything that I set out to do. Now what? I'm 35 years old. I plan on living to 100. Panic ensues.
Sure, especially if everything that you've been doing is divorced from who you think you are as a person. If those tasks were just things to do because you knew they were the right things to do, I do this and then I do this and we work this sequence and we check off one box and then we check off the next box. And then after you've done all of that, you realize a certain amount of time has passed and you're not sure if you wanted to do any of that to begin with, or if there's things that you haven't wanted to do. I think what I liked about what he said with purpose, if what you're doing isn't a part of your purpose, or if you don't perceive it to be a part of your purpose, then you might arrive at the other end and go, okay, well then I'm without purpose. Whereas if you got married and you worked a career and you raised children or whatever you want to put in that box that you call your life, and if you completely own that for what it is, then I can't see being or feeling any other way than accomplished. Right? If you get to the other end and you're like, well, I've reflected, like in the first video, I have this time and I'm going to reflect over my life, and all of this time has passed and all of this stuff has happened, and now my position is different than it was before and I'm thinking about life differently. But I suppose I would challenge somebody going through all of those things that have value and have worth to maybe pause and consider how much purpose and how much value and how much they actually really put into those things. Like that is, you have to acknowledge that.
So yeah, I think you make a good point about acknowledging you've succeeded. Mm-hmm. You've succeeded, and that's one of the tips. The health org tips is adjusting your perception. So yes, you've succeeded, but I think the problem people have is that now they don't know where to go from success. But what
more success is next.
Yes, but that's just it. How do you find that? Because if you set out to do all these things, you did all these things. Maybe you didn't think, I could also just write the great American novel. You didn't put that into your check boxes. Mm-hmm. But being grateful and basking in the success that you have achieved, adjusting your perception, I think that your perspective on that is more in tune to what the psychologists would consider a healthy perspective of midlife.
It's like I'm a psychologist.
Congratulations. Yes.
My name is Psych.
So, but you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
The way that you approach achieving success and being okay with that is not how other people might see the success.
Sure.
So I think so adjusting your perception is a big part of that. Yes,
they mention purpose, they mention perspective, and both of those things.
Practice gratitude. Yeah.
And any other things that start with the letter P it revolves around the person's perception. Yeah. It's their personal path that they're taking through life that is going to inform them of where they are in this thing called life. Trying to figure out what's meaningful to them and what's worth their time moving forward.
Did you read this article?
I did not.
So I'm gonna read it.
Okay, go for it.
Look at your accomplishments. For some people, midlife is a time of reflecting on missed opportunities. Counter these thoughts by making a list of your accomplishments. Think about the obstacles you've overcome, honors you've awarded, or the positive effect you've had on others. Reflect on the wise decisions you've made and actions and you've taken rather than your regrets. It's basically, he basically rewrote what this article was saying.
Yeah, well, if Google wants to have me summarize it for it in their new AI, maybe I can.
You could get into Wikipedia editing. It's free and everyone can do it. But some people do it better than others.
I'm not living that midlife crisis, though.
I must fix Wikipedia.
I don't want to put that on the list. No, thank you. But I like to use it from time to time. So maybe I should. All right, let's see if we can get a woman here. Let's get a perspective from a woman. Is it her? No.
So while you're looking for that, so the 4 tips for navigating midlife crisis: accept change, maintain a sense of purpose. We just talked about prioritizing self-care, which is no wait, we haven't talked about prioritizing self-care. That's the one I really like, the one I want to get into, and we'll get into that. Okay. Adjusting your perception is the 4th one. So those are the 4 that the health guide or discuss. Okay. And we'll get into. I really want to get into prioritizing self-care. But
sure, I found it. Here we go.
For those of you entering your 40s or 50s or even 60s, feeling like you're experiencing a midlife crisis, this isn't a crisis. This is a period of you waking up to realizing that everything that you've been doing up until this point has been getting you further and further away from your true self. You might be questioning the way you've been brought up and those limiting beliefs that you've been carrying around that are now feeling heavy and restrictive, unbalanced, unaligned, and disconnected from what your real values are. So if everything that you've been doing up until this point now feels unaligned, it's telling you that it's time to take a new path. You may have been going around feeling like a helpless child or like a reckless teenager. After so many years of this lack of control in your life, now you're yearning for that inner authority.
All right, we'll cut it there.
So I like. So she said a lot of basically what we were talking about last episode. The whole idea of everybody, you're being brought up the way the society is telling you to be brought up, and as you're getting older and starting to think for yourself, those perceptions are changing, but it contradicts the way that you were raised to think that you're supposed to act. And so there's a fear there that you're leaving your true self behind when really you're just transitioning into a new, better person. I mean, maybe that's not the right phrase, better person.
I suppose a good example of that could be, and something that many people could identify with, is going to church. I would say the majority of the people that I know have at one point in their life been to church.
I've been once.
Maybe some have been regularly as children, especially if their parents went to church religiously. If Sunday mornings was a tradition in their household, then they went. However, when they became adults and they moved away from home, did they still continue that tradition? Did they reevaluate whether or not they wanted to do that anymore? Did they believe the things that their parents believed, or that their pastors believed, or that their church body believed? You get to a certain point where you have to figure out, why do you think what you think? Why do you own your thoughts? Do you own your beliefs? Do you own your standards and morals? And where are they coming from? And do you want to change them? And you have to decide. And I think for many adolescents, if they grew up in a home that went to church all the time, never missed a Sunday, and maybe went to Bible studies or youth groups midweek, when they got to 18, did they still continue that path? Did they still want to do that? Did they make that a part of their life? I would say many people walked away. They chose a different path. They at the very least they stopped attending as much. And I think a midlife crisis is kind of akin to that. Hey, I lived my life because I thought you did this, 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 and this. All right, I did A, B, C, and D, and I'm done. Ta-da! Now what?
Now what? That's the whole thing. Now what? Where do you go from here? And that's where you get into some of the common benchmarks of midlife crisis.
Well, you mentioned self-care, so
Self-care.
hopefully your people take care of themselves anyway. What did you find out about self-care?
So self-care. So it talks about things like, exercise, reducing the bad habits, drinking.
Oh no, is this a part of our self-care?
Yes. So this is okay. This is okay. It's extensive. Exercise is a big one. Active people are healthier, happier. And it talks in detail about the benefits of taking care of yourself. Exercise is a big part of that. Reducing drinking, not doing drugs. Meditating is a big one now. I don't know if you've been to your doctor recently, but I go to Kaiser, and now they've got the 5 tenets of self-care. And no smoking is number 1. Exercise is number 2. Healthy eating habits is on there. And the 4th one is daily meditation. They're starting to advocate 15 minutes of daily meditation. Or meditation.
Well, take your medication if you need to.
Yeah, for 15 minutes. No, daily meditation for self-care.
Okay.
For self-care. Yeah. But yeah, those are the big things now.
Were those in any particular order, or those are just ones that they jumbled in there?
No, I think the order that I presented them, they're just the 5 tenets. The last one is sleep.
Yeah, okay.
Sleep is the last one. Yeah, they don't prioritize. I don't think any of them. They want you to do them all. They don't consider them 5 different things. They say here are the 5 things, are the one thing you need to do.
Got it.
Yeah.
And if you miss 1 or 2 of them, then you're not doing this thing called self-care.
Yes, self-care. And that gets into where they're trying to avoid your midlife crisis turning into clinical depression. And that's where that self-care diagnosis, or the prescription for self-care comes into play, as it gets really deep into.
Are they running out of medication?
No, they're not. No, there's plenty of pills, and they come up with new things all the time.
But they're now trying to get us away from using them?
No, in fact they're not.
Oh.
So when we get deeper into talking about the solutions, and we'll get deeper into that in a moment. I really wanted to get back a little bit about this lady, what you were saying, about transitioning away from who you were raised to be.
Yeah, she talked about making a departure from yourself. You've learned that you are farther and farther from your true self, which I don't know. I'll let you share, but I struggle with that.
I think what she meant was who you perceive your true self to be. Because I was raised a certain way. I was educated by the public school system, by my family, by my parents, by my surroundings, by cartoons, by all of these things. They created a person who has beliefs and an understanding of the world instilled into him. That's that person. But the world's a big place. It takes a long time to see it all. So as you get older, you start to question these things. Are the lessons that I learned at the end of every G.I. Joe episode really accurate? Now I'm starting to question the way that I was raised, and that's where I think she's talking about the separation from your true self, because she's naming your true self as the person that you were raised to be versus the person that you're growing into, because now you're starting to know enough about the world to cognitively make your own decisions, whereas before you were just being told this is who you have to be. Build the white picket fence, get married, have a boy and a girl, drive to work 5 days a week, live your life. And now you're like, wait a minute, really? Do I? Can I? Should I? You know, is slip and falls really as dangerous as Roadblock told me?
Yeah.
But you get the point.
Yeah, I think I've heard it put, how do you know what you know? I mean, that really, that kind of goes down this branch of philosophy, epistemology. What do we know about knowledge? Where does knowledge come from? How do we know the things that we know? And what is and what isn't? And trying to figure out and make sense of it all. It's a tall order. I like what you said about as the world's a big place and you can't really get to it all. Nobody ever has. I mean, is it possible to go to visit every continent? It is. Is it possible to visit every country? It is. Is it possible to talk to every single person and have a human experience and an interaction on a personal level with everybody? No, it isn't. So we live in this world where we take, it's all averages. Most people.
This is your one guy. Torbjorn Peterson. He's the guy who visited every country in the world. And it's so crazy that he's famous for it. That's so yes.
Interesting.
To your point.
So he set a toe in every sovereign state on this globe.
44 years old. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
Okay. Or maybe he just wants to be on the silver screen. He wants to sell his story.
It's pretty damn cool. Whatever.
It is.
But yes, but it shows just how difficult it is to see everything.
Yes. Not only is it impossible and impractical to get around to every culture and person and people, but even once, let's say you did. Okay, he did. Okay, let's say he had enough experience in each of those countries to form an opinion that most would agree with. Let's just say that. Well, cultures change over time. People change over time, and it took time for him to get around the globe and do all of that. So by the time he got, finished. Well, then all of a sudden we have the new thing trending over in China and the new thing trending in the Netherlands. And now this is the new culture in South Korea. And what are the United States doing now? And it's all changed by the time he's done it.
It says it took him 10 years to accomplish this feat.
Yes, a lot.
Think about what has changed in your life in the last 10 years just staying in one place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to your point, yes, the world is evolving, and it's evolving in 10,000 different ways in 10,000 different places. Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I would be curious to learn if he has experienced that midlife crisis and if he would attribute or give credit to his trip for that.
Yeah, he's 44 now, or he was 44 in 2023 when this article, when he was featured on CNBC.
So he started in his
mid-30s. 34, yeah. So.
Okay.
Or earlier. I don't know how long after he finished his trek that this was written, but
so I would say if this midlife crisis is surrounding this idea of you've arrived at this particular point in time, you've engaged in some self-reflection, and you're starting to put together some notions about what your purpose was, what your purpose is, what your purpose will be moving forward based on your accomplishments and your accolades and your current achievements. What's someone like he would
he might be triggering midlife crisis in countless men.
Let's say there's 100 things on Earth to accomplish. There's 100% of things to accomplish. Like for people that play video games that are just trying to accomplish everything within the game.
Unlock all the achievements.
Yes, unlock everything, find every single coin, get every single ring in Sonic.
Never been that guy.
All right. If you're that person, and let's say you've already unlocked 80% of your life and you only have the 20%, does that person experience a midlife crisis less than somebody who's only done 40% of their life
I can tell you that.
and they're leaving 60% on that
I
table?
can tell you the closer you get to achieving all of the achievements in a video game, it gets pretty tedious. You know, it's a lot more exciting when you have 60% still to go because there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you're like, all I've got to do is find these 11 things and I have no idea where they're at, and it's kind of, I've been doing this, pressing the same button over and over and over and over for how long? Yeah, it's a nice analogy. But yeah, I'd be curious to see how many people or how many men read the article or watched the news presentation of this guy who has been to every country in the world and he's 44 years old and thought to themselves, what have I done with my life? And does that trigger some anxiety? But what you're saying, yes, it all goes back to what we were talking about. All these things generate levels of anxiety, different levels of anxiety in different people. And people either see it as a challenge or see it as a tragedy. Those are and
So it's always attached to anxiety in some way, shape, or form?
in my opinion, yes. Because
Anxiety
to either
or depression or both?
well, so depression and anxiety are kind of two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
But no, yeah. I achieved everything. I'm anxious about what's next. I haven't achieved everything that I wanted to do. I'm anxious about how to achieve that. You know, anxiety is a big part of what drives us, I think, as an animal, as an animal species. It's just all it's our modern version of survival. Is the anxiousness that drives us to produce, to create, to succeed, to not just sit on the couch, curl up, and just wait for death to come grab us. You know,
Those are the signals going to our brain that drive us to act.
Yeah.
Do something.
I think
Do something else if that what you did at first was insufficient.
Yes. So I think this might be a good place to cut this episode because we think we came full circle with the overarching theme of what midlife crisis is about.
Well, we know it started in 1965.
This guy, Jacques.
Elliot. Why are you... Elliot had to do this.
Yeah.
Had to call it a crisis, did he?
Yeah.
A full-fledged crisis it was back then in 65.
And I think we can tie this up with one more episode, and I think that we should spend that time discussing how people who are actually going through crisis, because the people who see midlife as a challenge, we'll just let them, engage in their challenge. I don't think they don't need us. They don't have a problem. We don't need to talk about them anymore. Us, not so much. But after reading a lot of stuff about what the concepts of midlife depression are and stuff, I think I might have some interesting things personally too.
And I was just thinking, Elliot around the time of 1965, with the traditional American family at that period of time.
The nuclear family.
Yes. It absolutely might have looked like a crisis if one of the husband or the wife or both started to go in their own directions and do their own thing and have new aspirations or wants or desires that were well outside of what was considered just to be comfortable living.
You're talking about a lot of stressful things happened in the mid to late 60s.
Oh, well, they created things for that right around that time.
Yeah, but I mean, the world was changing.
Yes.
And I could see people who were just trying to stay in their perfect little nuclear family life, seeing the world around them changing, not in a way that they could either comprehend or wanted it to. Yeah, it's anxiety again.
Well, whether it was a full-fledged actual crisis or just a sensationalized term at the time to get us talking about that today, it worked.
Yeah. Well, we'll come up with some solutions next time. What do you think?
Absolutely. Let's solve this problem.
So thank you for joining us. Next time, Psych and Kay solve midlife crisis?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's pretty good. Now we're fucked.